Welcome to the Facts versus Feelings podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Detrick, and I'm joined by my co-host, Sonu Varghese. Each week, we dive into the important market-moving events and cut through the noise to help you, as an investor, identify what really matters. Let's get this show started. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the 15th episode of Carson's Facts versus Feelings with Ryan and Sonu. Sonu, we have an extremely awesome guest today, a longtime friend, Phil Pearlman. Phil, you're a legend in the industry. We're going to get into everything, but how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, Ryan. It's great to see you and to talk to you again. I love you, man. I love you going way back, and it's just a pleasure to be here today.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. You and I met when you were working at StockTwits, probably in 2012 or 13. When about was that? And then you started the whole Yahoo thing. When was that? When did we meet?
Yeah, I was an original investor there, and I was there at the beginning, going back into the alts, and I was there for 4 years or so, 4 or 5 years, helping them get started and helping to build the community.
So Ryan, I didn't know you were at StockTwits, so you learn something new every day, I guess.
Well, I guess I should say I wasn't there. I used it and leveraged it, and Phil taught me so much. Phil and Howard and a lot of the whole team there, but it was a lot of fun. So, Phil, let's just get into it. First, again, we're honored to have you. What are you doing now? You're always up to something. I love touching base with you. What are you up to?
So I founded a company called Pearl Institute. I named it after myself, Pearl. And we are focused on personal health planning and performance training. And we work with the advisor community because there is a parallel between health planning and wealth planning. Both are focused on future quality of life. So there's a very natural complementarity there. And I have been closely involved with the advisor community, went on my own health journey, got myself healthy into my 50s, and started looking at, here's what's missing from the advisor community is this other piece. Because, what good is saving all the money in the world, 401k, 529, trusts, whatever you do, tax strat, whatever you're doing, what good is if you get there to your sort of freedom phase of your life and you don't have your health? You're not ready to go. You're not ready to travel. You're not ready to have fun. You're not ready to take your spouse on trips. You're not ready to visit your kids and run around with them and go, paddle boarding or whatever you like to do. So that is my passion mission, is to work with advisors to help them get healthy themselves and become great role models. And there's also a performance component to fitness. And that is, we as we get healthier, we have more energy, we have more ability to focus, we have greater stress tolerance, we have more patience, all of these qualities. Especially, we have more self-confidence in social situations and networking, all of these qualities that contribute to an advisor's success.
So I want Sonu, you can come in 1 second. There's one thing, our founder and CEO, Ron Carson, he's talked about how he stopped drinking. He's done some videos on this. He says he doesn't need as much sleep anymore since he stopped drinking. I mean, Phil, I know you've done tons of work on this. By the way, you are a doctor. Sonu's a doctor. Remember the joke on Step Brothers?
I never called myself
learned. Well, but this is a house of learned doctors. I feel like I'm on a house of learned doctors right now, but I am not a doctor. But Phil, how true is that? I mean, Sonu, jump in after this one. If you don't drink or stop drinking, how much does it really help you?
Got to give you an honorary doctorate in awesome.
There you go. Well,
there
thank you.
Ryan Detrick, Doctor of Awesome. Yeah. PhD, baby.
PhD.
Yeah. Can you like text that to me or something? I'll show it to people. Hey, I'm a doctor.
I'm gonna make one of those diplomas. Like I'm gonna open a Google Docs and it has those prefab templates. I'm gonna find the diploma template that my teenagers use.
Well, give me a CFA. Give me a CFA while you're at it. I don't have one of those. I'll take anything you get.
I'll give you a CFA, man.
Yeah.
We just print. Sonu, you got it. It's just a printer. I'm just printing it. So you asked a serious question, and I got goofy, and
Right.
I want to address it.
We're allowed to. Yeah.
We're allowed to. And so I haven't had a drink in over 3 years, and I went through that myself. And I will tell you this, that science is an incredible thing. We're learning all kinds of stuff. And one of the things that we're learning is that alcohol is even worse for us than we always knew it was. At a cellular level, at a brain neurobiological level. And it is bad for us, our future selves. And it is also bad for our functioning in the present. And so when you stop drinking when you're drinking too much, as I was, and as many people are, when you stop, a lot of things happen pretty quickly in terms of energy level. I mentioned that before you mentioned Mr. Carson's experience. And your energy level increases, your anger management and stress tolerance improves markedly. And everybody's a little different. But the bottom line is that your health improves dramatically, especially if you're a big drinker, and especially the older that we get. And so if somebody feels like they don't need as much sleep, it's because they're sleeping deeper. Alcohol affects our sleep. You might pass out and think, hey, alcohol is great for getting me to sleep. But what happens is you actually sleep at your waves are functioning at on a shallower level. So your sleep is not a deep sleep. That's why part of the reason why you wake up hungover, because, you could have slept 8 hours, 10 hours, but you wake up still feeling terrible because really you didn't give your body the rest it needs.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'm 44 now. When I turned 40, I did probably one too many tequilas. Full disclosure. I see tequila now, and I still kind of gag from that was 4 years ago. So I'm never touching that stuff again. Sonu, fire away.
Yeah, no, Phil, you just mentioned neurological brain health in a sense, right? Self-confidence. You mentioned, being able to deal with stress better. So with respect to health planning, how important is the mental component of it, right? As obviously when you think health planning, I think your brain immediately thinks of, oh yeah, I need to go work out, run, walk, whatever it is. But there's a big mental component to it too, right?
There is a huge mental component, spiritual. I would say mental/spiritual, and it is so critical, and it is one of the things that is underappreciated in our culture. So we live in a culture where we are insensitive to our mental and spiritual health. And we just, we're grinding, you grind it out, right? That's an expression that you hear. And what happens is we get ground down. And so that is a critical component. And again, there's 2 time frames, right? There is, and I think the advisor community really already understands this, is that we have a present self and we have a future self. And we are, part of wisdom is sort of balancing that. Hey, we don't want to focus too much on our present self that we neglect our future self. And the future is going to happen. But there is both of those things going on. And so I think that we have this tendency to neglect our future self expressly, mostly, but we also tend to neglect our present self. So that head game, where you're at, how you feel, you live a day in the life. You want to feel great every single day and start stacking those days that you feel great. And so it is not appreciated as much as it needs to be. We are all one being. We go to, mind, body is all interacting with each other. And so how we feel affects our physical, it affects our job performance. All of these things are intertwined.
Yeah, Phil, I don't know if you know this, but at Carson Group, we say find your freedom, right? That's what we live by. And that's a really cool thing. And they mean it, right? It's like find your freedom. What makes you happy? And I've told this before on the podcast, why I'm here. Get to do podcasts with cool people like you and work with Sonu and Joey, who's on the podcast, helping us out. And there's so many different people, but it's just fun to do things like this because I want to do it. It's how I'm helping find my freedom. And I think it's neat because some of the things you talked about, like just find some happiness, right? Do that over and over, and things will probably get better. So, Phil, I want to give you a chance to promote yourself a little bit. You know, we've got a lot of advisors with Carson Group. A lot of advisors listen to this podcast. How can someone kind of reach out to you or learn more about what you're doing? Because the stuff you talked about is just awesome. And by the way, guys, you probably realize this isn't the average facts versus feelings. Usually Sonu and I talk about the Fed all day. It's nice to not talk about the Fed for a change, to be honest. How can someone follow you and learn a little bit more about what you're up to?
Right?
Yeah.
You can reach me at Pearlman, PPEARLMAN @gmail.com, or probably easiest if you're on Twitter at Pearlman, PPEARLMAN on Twitter. And I do have multiple services, and I do have a one-on-one service that is personal health planning, performance training, all rolled into one. I call it, one of the terms that I use is fitness alpha. How can we gain an advantage? How can we improve our performance based on getting healthy? And I work with clients within the advisory space, also outside, but mostly within the advisory space. That's where I'm specializing. I work with organizations. I work with groups. I'm going to have some webinars coming out in the new year. And you can reach me there. You follow me on Twitter is probably the easiest because I always update that and always let people know like what I'm doing and when the next webinar is and so forth.
Great.
Phil, could you expand on, if you're talking to an advisor, right, how they could go about integrating exactly what you said, health planning, into their practice?
Okay, so perfect. So think about that. Okay, so there's a couple different things. Okay, there's multiple angles. Here is the first angle. The first angle is how an advisor affects their clients. Okay, this is hugely important because you have a client and you know that they need to do A, B, and C. And right, what's the first rule of behavioral finance? The one thing that stands out that we've learned in the first 50 or so years of behavioral finance. As a matter of fact, the original article on biases and heuristics by Kahneman and Tversky is 74, right? So we're coming up on the 50-year anniversary of sort of that flag in the ground. And if you're going to demarcate sort of the history of behavioral finance, that's a great place to start. So we're coming up on the 50th. And the one thing that we know that stands out above everything else is that people don't always behave in their own self-interest. They don't always do what's best for them, right? That's loss aversion, all biases, all of that stuff that we learn. And the same is true in how our clients who we're trying to help behave. So we ask them to do this, or we ask them to move money over here. We need signatures for this, and they're not compliant. So we want to become as effective as possible. We want to be as persuasive as possible. We want to be as inspiring as possible. We want to be at our best game, right? We had a horrible year in the market this year. How many people, how many people watching this right now, raise your hand if you got calls from anxious clients. What am I doing? What my portfolio's down, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We want to be at our best game. So getting ourselves healthy helps us be at our best game. And that's something I call fitness alpha. We improve our performance. We improve our energy level. We improve our ability to tolerate stress, like a down market. We improve our charisma and our ability to inspire. That's one. Next, we are role models in that role. Our clients are looking up to us. They are trusting us. They are thinking we have answers. And we want to present to them as strongly as possible. When we are a role model that they really can trust, they really can look up to, that is another really strong argument for why we would want to prioritize our health, right? So we say, hey, let's get, I get fit, and then they see me that way and they want to be that way too, even if that's kind of on a subconscious level, even if that's not an explicit thing. In addition to that, advisors are, there's been a move towards, with technology, there has been a shift in the industry towards commoditization. And the best advisors swim against that tide. They are the salmon. And they are moving away from, hey, you just plug the numbers in, you ask somebody the stress tolerance, and you get this, here's what you do. You have to do more than that now, right? We have to offer more than that. And the best advisors do offer more than that. And that is where health planning as sort of a second, an emergent and convergent offering comes into play. That's a whole other large thing in and of itself. And that's really saying, hey, to the client, we have a set of services, a suite of services that we offer you. And maybe, and there's this whole move towards holistic services where, hey, we do the taxes for you, and hey, we do estate for you, and hey, we do this, hey, we do that. Well, there's also, and I think I'm a little bit ahead of the curve here, but I think what's coming next is this convergence of also health planning, where there's also this aspect of, hey, let's get you checked out. Let's get a physical for you. And let's not do it for the insurance purpose. Let's do it so that we can figure out how we can get you to a place where, depending on how old you are, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 35 years from now, you can be in a place where, hey, not only do you have a ton of money in the bank, but you also are in a place in your life where you're like, wow, I feel great. I am fit and ready to enjoy that. I'm in a good headspace, to your point earlier, and I'm also in a good body space where I can move freely, where I can run around, where I have all that energy to be able to do that. Independence.
Well, that was awesome, Phil. You know what,
That's
I mentioned
great.
maybe a couple of weeks ago, I said, to Joey Guidry and Sonu, I said, hey, let's have Phil Pearlman on. They trusted me, but I think the answer you just gave, Phil, makes me feel really good. That was an awesome answer, and you've earned it being a
No,
guest with that answer. That was good. So
that's
I want to
awesome.
jump in just for a second here with a quick little story. So in 2014, I was unemployed. I was doing some things with social media. Howard Lindsay and Phil were at StockTwits at the time, did something called Stocktoberfest. They said, hey, why don't you come out to, I think it was San Diego, right? Or Coronado Island. I said, listen, I don't have any money. I'm unemployed. And next thing I know, you guys literally bought my plane ticket, got me out to the Dell, which is a really nice hotel. And long story short, that was so moving because it helped my career. I met some people, right? It connected me some people at LPL. I got the job at LPL and go forward. Now here I am today. So, Phil, all the stuff you talk about, you live it, right? Because the stuff you and Howard did for me, I'll never forget it. It's helped me sit where I am right now, because you guys did that, and it just means a lot. So what I'm getting at, though, I just want to point it out. What I'm getting at, though, that very first time at this Oktoberfest, we were in that small little a movie theater, and you gave an awesome presentation, Phil, and I don't remember what it exactly was, but you had the picture of the ballerina, remember? And she's beautiful, and she's moving, but when she takes her shoe off, it's a nasty-looking toe. I don't remember where you went with that, but it was great, and it's that one of those images I remember. What were you getting at when you did that example? Because it was an awesome presentation.
You're the second person in the last 2 weeks who's brought that up to me.
Well, and that was like 8 years ago. That was like 8 years ago, and I still remember that. It was hilarious, but a great story. Yeah.
Crazy. Well, here's the thing, is that when you see and this actually goes to advising, it goes to health planning and fitness as well, all of those areas, and certainly money management, and certainly active money management as well. And that is this. When you go to the ballet and you see ballet dancers dancing, it is effortless and sublime. Aesthetic beauty at its finest. The movement is graceful and moving emotionally. And the ballet dancer looks like he or she is floating on air. But underneath that, there is sweat and toil and hard work and mangled feet. Because even one of the sort of simplest components to ballet is standing on your toes, standing on point. And that is an unnatural act. That is an unnatural act. We don't stand on our toes. We walk on the bottom of our feet. Like we're born that way, right? We have the balls of our feet. That's how we walk. That's how we're bipeds. That's what we do. By the way, I'm a big proponent of walking. Get out there, everybody, and walk in the morning, get some sunlight, go for a walk, turn your phone off. It'll still be there. Okay, that was just a little ad for walking. I am a spokesperson for the art of walking. But anyway, though, so the ballet dancer, it's a very unnatural act. And the way they get to looking so fluid and beautiful is by going through so much pain and so much unnatural work that if you look at their feet that they fit into these little ballet shoes are mangled. And the point that I was making for that audience, for the stock trading audience, was that trading is an unnatural act as well. We naturally are born, and this was prospect theory, going again back to the early work of Kahneman and Tversky. This one was in the late 70s, 79, was that we do dumb things with money, right? Everybody's panicking. We're selling at the bottom. Everybody's getting excited and the market's way, way up. We're buying near the top. That's what we do because we don't want to, it's a FOMO thing. We don't want to miss out. Everybody else is getting rich. And then at the bottom, it's a fear thing. It's a loss aversion thing. And that word aversion is a very important part of their model that people don't mention. But that's the thing. So that ballet and market participant, so to become a great trader, become a great market participant or an investor over many, many years, we have to learn, we have to reteach ourselves. We have to dance on point. We have to be able to stand on our toes. We have to do something unnatural. And that is to buy when everybody else hates the market and sell when everybody else is euphoric. So really it goes against human nature to do those acts. That was the point that I was making. Now, the same exact thing goes for wealth planning, wealth management over the long term. We are biased. We are present biased, right? We see a piece of cake. Oh, that cake looks awesome. I'm going to eat that cake. Carrot cake, it's my favorite cake. And you just eat it.
Phil, time out just for a second. Time out. You'd be shocked how often we bring up cake on this podcast. I'm so glad you did it. You're like keeping the tradition going. It's shocking we talk about cake so much on this podcast. Yeah.
Let me tell you something. I am, I'm Mr. Low Carb. I am, way overboard on my health game. It's like a joke almost. But you put a piece of carrot cake in me, and that famous GIF where the lady's like, maybe. I'm doing the maybe gift. I'm doing the maybe gift right there because it's like freaking carrot cake. But we are naturally present biased because that's where our head is. That's where we are. That's where our eyes are that look out from our brain. That's where our emotional apparatus is in that moment. Feeling our future, feeling our future self, really feeling it is much, much more remote and much, much more difficult. So we have a similar bias. So for us to be wise and for us to plan for our futures, not just with our health, but with our wealth as well, we have to emotionally connect to that future self somehow. So we have to go against nature. We have to dance on point.
Wow. Well, that was awesome. I think we've got time for two more questions. It's amazing how fast this time's going. Sonu, you can go ahead and then I'll finish this up. That was awesome, Phil.
Yeah, no, look, we talked about from the advisor perspective, but a lot of our folks who listen to this podcast are on the other side, right? Like clients and, friends and family and things like that. How should they think about, when they are trying to get a hold of their finances and things like that? How do they think about, wait, it's not just about what I see on my bank statement or 401k statement, or even when I talk to my advisor? Or should they think about, wait, my physical and mental health matters here too, to everything I see in front of me?
Here's what I would recommend. And this is a very short answer to a much larger issue. But I am very much obsessed with and dedicated to how people change. How people change. I mean, if we do irrational things in the market and we do irrational things with our health, why do we do them? Right? Why would we do them at all if they're irrational, if they're not in our best interest? But we do them anyway. So there has to be some reason. And so here's an exercise that I can give in 90 seconds that may click for some people. And this is really a way to do exactly what I was saying before. And that is connecting ourselves emotionally to our future self. So what we want to do is we want to tune into that future self so that we feel, because that day is going to come. That day is going to be just as much a reality as today is. It's just not here yet. And so what we want to do is we want to elevate our emotional commitment to that day that is out into the future. And here's how I would recommend doing that. I would say to vividly imagine where you want to be in that future. And I think some advisors do this already, right? Like, what would you like, how would you like your life to be? Where would you like to be living? And all that kind of stuff. Where would you like to be financially? But what I would add to that is the look in the mirror. How would I like to look? How would I like to feel? What would I like to be doing every day? How would I like to get out of bed in the morning? And all of those things. And imagine those things vividly, not just as a one-time exercise, but to do it repeatedly and to really connect to it. The thing that really hit me when I did it was thinking about my children's wedding, right? So one day my kids are going to get married and I want to be there. And I became a father at a little bit older than most people. And so I was thinking to myself, when my kids get married, I want to be dancing at their wedding. And I want to be like really dancing, not like old man shuffle dancing. I want to be like
dance on your toes,
going.
Phil. Do some of that ballerina stuff. Dance on your toes.
I want to be able to do the grand plie. Exactly. So I would say imagine and then write it down and then come back to it and write it down again and write your own story. Make it a narrative. It doesn't have to be long. It could be just a couple hundred words, but create that story that you get emotionally connected to, that is that reflection of your future self that you have created in your head, and that is aspirational.
That's fantastic.
Too much?
That's awesome.
Was that too much there, guys? Or
that was great.
It's the reason we call this facts versus feelings, right? And feeling your future self, and that's
you
awesome.
want to connect emotionally to it. That is the thing. That is why we are present bias, because we're already connected to it. We're here now. You know what I mean? We're cold. We feel cold. So forth.
Yeah, well, Dr. Phil, the way you connect, health and our brains and our wealth and put it all together, this is just amazing. One more question. So by the time people listen to this, it'll be the holiday season, maybe even after, getting closer to the end of the year. And maybe you've kind of hinted at some of these things, but let's kind of wrap it up. If someone's got some 2023 goals, I want to get healthy, I want to eat better, the standard stuff, I'm not minimizing them. We all know within a month it's over. What is something people can do to really reach those goals they're going to make as we head into the new year?
I just wrote a piece about seasonality of weight gain.
I know you did. That was kind of there you go. Like that olive branch I gave you there. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So we tend to gain weight over the holidays, and there's multiple reasons for that, not just the Christmas cookies. Also, there's some evolutionary stuff going on with the cold and with, giving ourselves a little bit more insulation. But the question you asked is actually a little bit distinct from that. So I'm going to answer your question because it's a really, really good one. First off, the New Year's resolution thing is great. Don't let anybody tell you that it's not good. It can take many tries to get on a different track. There's this old Eastern saying that goes, fall down 7, get up 8. So if you made health resolutions last year and you couldn't keep them, or you make them this year and you can't keep them, keep trying. Get up off the ground. Just because you go out one time and blow it and just like eat crazy or whatever doesn't mean that you've blown the whole thing, right? What I would do is I would recommend making very, very small, specific goals. You don't have to set the world on fire. A lot of times what people do is they make goals that are really, really impossible. They hear it on TV or they see some guru talking about it, and they make this ridiculous goal that they're never going to keep. Start with the smaller goals. It's kind of like the level 1 of a video game. You know, the games makers, they know what they're doing. They make the first level very easy. It's gamification. They're getting your brain to buy, oh, I had a success. It felt so good. I got to level 2. Now I want to keep playing. And then the levels get harder and harder. So I would play that gamification with yourself. Make the first level very easy. Give yourself a first goal that you can do. That would be number 1. Number 2, I would say what I just said about visualizing. Where do I want to be at the end of the year? Look in the mirror, write it down. It doesn't have to be 5 pages. It can be 100 words or 200 words. Where do I want to get to? And then really think about that and really feel that. Because if you emotionally connect to it, if you emotionally connect to that, then you're going to have a much easier time getting to that place. And then I have one last recommendation. The third thing I would call the right foot rule. And by that, I mean that begin your day in the most healthy way, right? So wake up early, move your body, get outside and get some sun on your face, even if it's for 5 minutes. And then the first thing that you put in your body that day, make sure that it's a healthy food. You know, don't have it be cereal, have it be instead eggs or something with only one ingredient in it, you know. I will also say this, that I have recently written a lot about this, or written a lot about 2023. I just published something yesterday called the 2023 Fitness Cheat Sheet, everything you need to know on one page. And you could find that on my Substack, Prime Cuts Substack. If you Google Prime Cuts Substack, you're gonna find that with no problem.
Yeah, and I've been reading that as long as you've been writing it, and it is awesome. So, Phil, thank you so much for joining Sonu and myself, the whole Carson Group team. Thanks you. Our advisors, thank you. And hopefully we can do this again. Guys, go out there and follow Phil. Phil, have a happy New Year, great holidays, and you're my brother too, man. And again,
guys, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the platform.
Yep. All right, take care. We'll see you. See you, Phil. See you, Sonu. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Information provided on Facts versus Feelings with Sonu Varghese and Ryan Detrick are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. The statements and opinions of show guests may not be reflective of CWM LLC or its affiliates. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested in directly. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal. No strategy assures success or protects against loss. To determine what may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, financial or tax advisor prior to investing. Guests on Facts versus Feelings are not affiliated with CWM LLC.